Where is Usain Bolt's money? Welcome back to the channel. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm angry, I'm upset, and I'm really teed off right now. And I'm gonna speak on Usain Bolt's case and his funds that have been missing from a Jamaican financial institution for a very long time. Now, as you know, Usain Bolt, the world's fastest man, is arguably Jamaica's most famous living citizen. I don't even think it's arguably. He is Jamaica's most famous living citizen. And as it pertains to Jamaica overall, Bob Marley is the only other Jamaican citizen that you could even put in the level of popularity that Usain Bolt has. He has accomplished so much as a sporting icon in Jamaica and has brought so much glory to Jamaica. The only man in history to win 3 consecutive 100 and 200 meter gold medals at the Olympics. Now remember folks, nobody has ever won 2 back-to-back, and this man has done it 3 times. Just shows you the magnitude. We could even say Usain Bolt as an individual is the greatest athlete of all time. I could take him and argue against anybody, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, anybody you want to bring forward. I could use Usain Bolt and argue against those guys as the greatest athlete of all time. Now, as you know, he retired in 2017 after the World Championship, but prior to that, in the year 2012, Usain Bolt invested a large sum of money in a Jamaican stockbroking and financial institution company called SSL, which began operations in 2008. And ironically, it was flagged by the ruling government in 2013, and certain operations were forced to be seized in SSL. However, in 2017, when they received their license, they continued to do their practice. And unfortunately for Usain Bolt, in the year 2022, a massive fraud was discovered there in SSL. Massive fraud, where basically everybody lost everything they had. 200 investors losing over 30 odd million US. And in the initial stages of the fraud, the government of Jamaica, they commandeered SSL. They took over operations and said nothing would change hands, nothing would be sold, and if anything, the assets of SSL would be held in case there's a civil settlement where stakeholders, in terms of clients who lost money and were defrauded, could be reimbursed something out of what they were lost, right? We were told by the Jamaican government that people as high up as the FBI would be engaged in this investigation. And that gave Jamaica a real sense of hope that, some justice would be sought for the Sprint legend, the other investors, and all Jamaicans, because ironically, when the news broke, it came out that the government had invested taxpayers' money inside of SSL into 5 government agencies. So that was a bit concerning. And also the fact that the person that holds the highest office in the land claims that he had an account there and he withdrew his funds right before the fraud, which smells. That really stinks. I don't know what they take us for. They take us for idiots. And I'm going to go off in a minute here. And that's where it was, right? So as the investigation has unfolded, some very damning evidence has come out against the principals of SSL and against this particular government here, the Jamaican government at the time. Number one, the person that is the head of this company, he was never interviewed by the cops. Even though the person that was arrested, Miss Jean Panton, right, for the alleged fraud, she confessed to knowing about the movements of $4 million US, of which she took only 800,000, right? So she took only 800,000 and she knows about 4 million moving. Who did she say take the other $3.2 million? That is damning. And yet still, we have seen no one else arrested. Now, ironically, in her first court appearance, Miss Panton made the court aware that she was coerced by her boss, Hugh Croskery, to take the fall for this money. Makes no sense. And yet still, Mr. Croskery was allowed by our Jamaican government, to leave Jamaica without being interviewed by any local law enforcement authorities. What is that, right? We were also told, right, by the government that a Kroll report was done at a cost of 1.2 million US, a very reputable firm out of England, And until this day, we have not been privy to that report. And yet still, certain aspects of the report was leaked by the government to a certain particular media house, which is in cahoots, which is very friendly to the government. And in that leak, they try to make it appear like Usain Bolt's money never got to SSL, which is, we know that was just designed to mislead the people and to make the people of SSL look like they didn't know what was going on, right? So now we are over 2 years after the fraud, and Mr. Usain Bolt has not gotten back a single dollar of his money. No investor has gotten back a single dollar of his money, and we cannot get any concrete evidence from the government as to the state of investigation. Yet still, the DPP claims that she's ready to try one person who signed to taking 800,000 US personally, right? Out of over 30 million US dollars of fraud. That one person, the DPP is ready to try them and hang them and tell us that they have solved the case. We are not stupid, Mrs. DPP. And I'm calling on this, I'm gonna say this publicly. Several people in the government of Jamaica, their heads need to roll from, and it goes all the way up. It goes all the way up. Several people's heads need to roll for this. Number one, the Prime Minister has been flagged by the Integrity Commission concerning monies he got out of SSL. And until this day, the Prime Minister cannot prove where he got those monies from, how he got those monies out of SSL. He cannot provide any evidence of when he made his initial deposit into SSL. And coming out of the Prime Minister's lawyer's own mouth, Mr. Patrick Bailey, he said that the Prime Minister got a loan from SSL in 2012 to start building his house, even though SSL is not a bank. You know what else happened in 2012, folks? The same year Usain Bolt deposited his money in SSL, right? Good. Now, the next thing is this. The Finance Minister, he also needs to be in trouble here. Yes, Mr. Nigel Clark needs to be in trouble. Yes, and I have concrete evidence, and I'm not afraid to say it. The two pieces of evidence which would put Mr. Clark in jeopardy here legally, right, is number one, he was made aware by the FSC that SSL was in conflict, right? And yet still, he never made the public aware. When he was pressured as to the reason why he never made the public aware, Mr. Clark said that the report that was sent to his office, he overlooked it and it was found in an office in his... Now listen, Mr. Clark, that is no excuse. That is dereliction of duty. And as a matter of fact, I don't believe you, sir. I don't believe you. I think you blatantly were being cheeky. All right? The next thing, right? When the government commandeered SSL, they became basically a socialized institution because the government was responsible for paying their wages, right? Paying $15 million, I forgot if it was a week or a month, to cover the wages of SSL workers, right? And that was taxpayers' money, right? Good. He also told us at the time that no assets would be able to be sold or transferred from SSL, right? That's what he told us. Good. Now, Mr. Clark, what Mr. Clark failed to tell the public eventually is that even though the government had control of SSL, he, as Finance Minister, allowed ownership of SSL buildings, reportedly valued at over $300 million, to be transferred to the son and daughter-in-law of a member of the Jamaican government. Now, if that is not the heights of nastiness and nepotism and cronyism, what is? What is then? And it's a big smoking gun. And I've heard denials and denials coming out from the minister and all type of stuff. And listen, there's undisputed evidence here that the Jamaican government was complicit. Number one, the Prime Minister cannot tell us or show us or prove to us when did he show us the proof where you deposited money in SSL in 2008 as a claim. Prove to us why SSL gave you a loan in 2012 even though it wasn't a bank. And show us the reason why you decided to pull out all your funds right before the fraud was discovered. What could really go so? And then the next thing, the Finance Minister, you have a lot of questions to ask. Number one, your duty is to protect the government. You had a report on SSL. You did not make it public and you had a lame excuse as to the reason why you did not make it public. Number two, You facilitated the transfer of assets of SSL while the government had control of SSL. That was a big breach, and in my opinion, that could have not been constitutional or legal. So Mr. Clark, he has a lot of questions to ask. And it's sad. It's not just sad for Usain Bolt, it's sad for all Jamaicans. Because remember, as I said, folks, taxpayers' money was also invested into this. And I see some people resorting to victim shaming Usain Bolt, people like Miss Tanisha Phillips. She knew all of this information at the time when she asked Usain Bolt that silly question. She knew that the government put taxpayers' money in it without asking us, and she's asking Bolt if he consulted them. She knows that the Prime Minister had an account here. She knows that the Finance Minister was aware of irregularities and SSL had never made the public aware. And yet still here she is victim shaming Usain Bolt because of politics. It makes me think back to 50 years ago when Bob Marley was shot for political reasons as well. And you know, based on the allegations, I will say no more. All I know is the time has come for there to be justice here. The time has come for there to be justice here. For Usain Bolt, the rest of investors like the 78-year-old woman and the 82-year-old woman who lost hundreds of thousands of US and are crying out for justice, right? And the time has come for Usain Bolt to get some answers to his money. Ironically, I know that he has left Jamaica because, you know, I don't want to say it, but he's not in the island at the time. Let's just hope he gets some justice for his money. My island is bleeding. My island is bleeding. It's a very sick, nasty scandal that has covered and embroiled the island. It's very disgraceful to see our most known citizen being embarrassed like this on the international stage, because this is reaching international levels. And the government is so slow. The government is clearly complicit here. The government is complicit in the fraud. I just outlined all the reasons why they are complicit in the fraud. They are complicit in the fraud. And that is why they are so quiet. It's a disgrace. I think that the whole government of Jamaica should resign over this Usain Bolt saga, especially the Prime Minister and the one's Finance Minister. Well, he already left. And I am almost certain that Nigel Clark knows the reason why he ran, because he smelled the rat of this Usain SSL ghosts visiting him, and he ran. He basically ran and covered it by saying he took some big shot job with the IMF. You ran, Nigel Clark. We know what time it is. You ran. And the Prime Minister up till this day cannot answer questions how he got money out of SSL. It makes no sense. So I'm gonna leave it there for now. But I'll tell you folks, I was very angry and I had to do this video because this thing has gotten out of hand. Justice for Usain Bolt, justice for our taxpaying Jamaicans, and justice for everybody else who lost money in the fraud. Whether you are American or whichever country your nationality is, justice for all the victims of SSL. Thank you for watching the channel. Please like, subscribe, share, and help us grow the channel. Peace.